Hello everyone and welcome back to My Opinion. And India have won this fourth test match in Ranchi by 5 wickets, therefore taking an unassailable lead in the series by 3 games to 1. This is their 17th consecutive home test series win. On the 11th of each side, starting off with India, there was one difference in the 11 that I suggested in my previous video and the 11 that they went with. I would have gone with Akshar Patel ahead of Akashdeep. They went with the other option. If you're going to play 2 seamers and rest Jasprit Bumrah, you had Akashdeep and Mukesh Kumar in the reserves. Mukesh Kumar, we saw how he went in one of the first 2 games. I think in the second game where the surface didn't suit his type of bowling, and we saw how the surface played out in this game, and once again that would have been the case, and that's why they had to pick Akashdeep if they're going to go with the second seamer. I would have played Akshar Patel, but I thought the 11 they picked was satisfactory. And for England, I would have gone with Dan Lawrence ahead of Johnny Bairstow. They've been backing Bairstow, and I'm sure he'll play the next game as that marks his 100th test match. And they went with Ollie Robinson correctly ahead of Mark Wood, and I think I can say this because even though if you watched my previous video, you may have seen an asterisk where I said they could go either way. I think with what I'd said, and it's a learning for me where I only thought they could go either way while I was editing the video. I didn't want to change what I'd said, so I just put it out how it was. And I think it's a learning for me as well that I should continue to back what I'd said rather than sitting on the fence that one time. But the reason why I said they should go for Mark Wood is because even though with how this surface typically is played out, it's a hard surface with a bit of bounce. Even though we saw at times the ball rolling a bit, especially when the spinners are bowling in this game. But it's a surface that usually has a bit of bounce in it, and that's why Mark Wood could have been a viable option. However, I went with Robinson because Mark Wood, even in the game in, I think, I can't remember off the top of my head where the third test match was, in Rajkot, where he picked wickets in the first innings, but he also, and in the second innings, he went for runs in both the innings above 4 and over. So I thought the control of Robinson and Anderson, keeping the runs down on a surface where this venue doesn't see blistering scoring rates, and with how this game played out, we saw that to be the case. And then you've got the control of Shoaib Bashir and the control of Tom Hardy and Joe Root as well. So looking to squeeze the opponent in terms of limiting their scoring rates and looking to prize out wickets in that fashion. The outcome of the toss hasn't dictated as much at this venue in the past, but I thought for England to have the best chance this game was vital for Ben Stokes to win the toss and choose to bat first, and he did that. I thought from a bowling point of view, the Indian team has maintained control for the first 6 overs. England were 14 without loss. Unfortunately for them, Zak Crawley took to Siraj in the 7th over, and Zak Crawley went on his way for a while, and Siraj's coronary rate didn't get any better. They once again got off to a decent opening stand of 47 without loss, where, as I'd said before, I feel even though the Indian openers as individuals, you think they've got that extra fear factor to play that match-winning knock, I feel the English openers as a partnership have got to that 50 line mark more often than the Indian openers have. England then lost 3 wickets for 10 runs via the debutant Akashdeep, where he's been good for India in the recent series, and he's had quite a journey to get this opportunity. So I was happy to see him do well. And at that point in time, the situation of the game was turned on its head, where England had got a decent start, but then lost 3 quick wickets. A partnership ensued between Joe Root and Johnny Bairstow. Bairstow was looking to take the attack to the opposition, and his wicket fell on the score in 109 for 4. And the first out of a few instances in this game, and I've been talking about this even in previous videos as well in unrelated series, where when the ball is bowled fuller and you're going back to that fuller ball, the ball keeps low and you get out LBW or whatever, and then if you then go around thinking the service is keeping low, even people are watching going service is supposedly a shocker. I don't get how that would work. It wasn't only the English players. It happened surprisingly to the Indian players as well when they were batting. And I don't know what it's where even the batsmen don't seem to understand that because of their own mistakes. Yes, the ball. Well, they say the ball kept low, but if you bowl the ball full, it's clearly not going to bounce as much as if you bowl it short. That's what happened when Jadeja bowled to Ben Stokes. He went on the back foot, and he was dismissed LBW. So that wasn't a great dismissal from him, but I knew that conversation would be started when that happened. And 112 for 5, where India are on the verge of completing a great bowling innings where they'll bowl England out for, that they could bowl them out for a maximum score, even if you let things drift a bit, 170 or so. Instead, what they do, I thought they were waiting for things to happen where I think Jadeja, Ashwin were bowling for a bit. Even though Jadeja didn't give too many runs in terms of economy rate, I thought they were allowed to block him out and get a few singles here and there, especially in the middle phase, and the scores and around that 150, 160 for 5. And that partnership between Ben Foakes and Joe Root stretched to above 100, and Foakes was dismissed when the score was on 225. And then Tom Hartley, who's been playing his shots whenever he's walked out to bat, played a few shots, was dismissed. And Ollie Robinson and Joe Root took England to, I think, 302 for 7 at the end of day 1. And that was their day after being 112 for 5. I thought that I was very disappointed in the tactics employed and the bowling to let England get to this position from where they were. And I thought as long as the score doesn't get towards 200 and certainly not above that, then I thought India would have been okay. And then I think Ollie Robinson walked out playing his shots on day 2 against the seamers, especially early on. England were 347 for 7, and luckily those 3 wickets fell as quickly as they did after that point, because if one of Joe Root or Ollie Robinson, especially if Joe Root had taken this score close to 400, then psychologically this could have been a much more of a different proposition. So I'm disappointed that India let things drift from where the game was, but in the end they dismissed England for less than what I thought the maximum threshold would be. And looking at India's bowling figures, Mohammad Siraj, after the first 6 overs, so the 3 overs each from Siraj and Akashdeep, he went at above 4 and over, picking up 2 wickets. Akashdeep, I thought he maintained control for his first 8 overs, picking up 3 wickets within then. I think only gave 30 something runs or so. Unfortunately, after that, the inexperience showed and he went at above 4 and over. Jadeja maintained a very good economy rate, 4 for 67 and 32.5. Ashwin is a case where, and I thought there's a difference between him bowling in the second innings and in this innings. We've seen him do that even at times in this series where he's been going around the wicket to the right-hander, trying to play on their tendency to look for the sweep, and he's been missing his lengths at times as well. And in the post-tea session on day 1, that was when they hit a few runs off him, so he wasn't at his best in this first innings, and Kuldeep Yadav was underbowled, going at less than 2 and over, bowling for 12 overs. So I feel if one of Jadeja and Kuldeep Yadav hadn't been able to maintain that control, England would have definitely got some decent runs more than what they had got, and they would have put some pressure on India. So I'll be saying this, I'm very disappointed in how India let the game drift from that situation, and this hasn't been the omnipotent showing that you'd see from such a side that's been brilliant at home for all these years, but in the end they managed to salvage something. On the second innings of the game, after losing Rohit Sharma early, Yashasvi Jaiswal and Shubman Gill put on a nice partnership to set India on their way. And with the way they were going, it reaffirmed the notion, in my view, that England hadn't got as many as they would have liked to make India feel as if they were behind in this game. Things are going well until Shubman Gill was dismissed after bowling of Shoaib Bashir, LBW for 38. He threw away a start, and he wouldn't have been too happy with the way he was dismissed. And most of the dismissals throughout this innings were quite disappointing. Rohit Sharma poking outside off early on, Shubman Gill being dismissed in the way he was dismissed, and Rajat Patidar, where the score had gone above 100, he'd got 4 boundaries out of his 17, and the second case where the batsman goes on the back foot to a full ball and was dismissed LBW. So I thought he once again managed to throw away some kind of a start there. Jadeja, he hit 2 sixes. I don't know what that dismissal was, where he scored short leg. And I think throughout Yashasvi Jaiswal's career across formats, you'd hardly ever see him play that shot where it hasn't been called out because he scored 73. But I don't think we'll ever see him play that kind of shot where it was as full as you can get that delivery and he just throws one hand at it, a straight ball, and he gets bowled. A hugely disappointing dismissal. Had he got a century in that innings, it would have continued his expectedly great run, especially in home series. Unfortunately, it wasn't to be, but it was still a good innings. And Sarfraz Khan poked outside off of the bowling of Tom Hartley and was caught at slip by Joe Root. Ashwin is also dismissed, and I think India were on 200 and something odd because of a resurrectory partnership between Dhruv Jurel and Kuldeep Yadav. On the next day, Kuldeep Yadav's vigil continued. Dhruv Jurel was taking calculated risks, and Kuldeep was dismissed of the bowling of James Anderson when the score was on 253. And after Ashwin had got his fifer in the second inning, he said that the management weren't too happy that Kuldeep was dismissed at that point in time. But I thought from where India were, he had done his job well. I think even in the test prior, he had got a partnership with Shubman Gill and he'd scored a 20 odd. And Dhruv Jurel scoring a fantastic 90, rescuing India from that situation where I thought them bringing the lead as close to 46 was going to be a tough ask from where they were at the end of the previous day. But a fantastic 90 where not only if you want to set an impression, I feel this is the innings that you'd want to play. I feel he was the only one across the batsmen in this game where he played the spinners correctly in terms of he went forward when he should have done, he went back when he should have done. And he looked like the player who wasn't going to be vulnerable to be dismissed off the spinners because of a lapse in footwork. So a fantastic innings from him, and this may not be related to this, but as I've said before, a few months back on reviewing the IPL auction, I feel he should bat at number 4, and he curbed his natural instincts in this innings and on his debut game as well. And I feel he's expectedly shown some great signs as far as what I'm saying. On the England bowling effort, another controlling performance from James Anderson, 2 for 48 in his 18 overs. Shoaib Bashir, his first test fifer, 519 in 44, where I thought he bowled okay in the first innings of the second test. He was bowling at decent pace and hitting his areas consistently. He seems to be a controlling spinner. And I don't know why he didn't play in the third test. The correct decision to bring him back for this one, and you saw how he went, where he went to less than 3 over across that many overs. Tom Hartley was introduced fairly late on into the attack, but he too went at less than 3 over, picking up 3 wickets in 27.2 overs. And Ollie Robinson, he's been scapegoated a bit, where he scored 58 in England's first batting innings. He went at above 4 over in the first bowling innings, and he had a problem with no balls thus far in his relatively short test career. But the reason why I still think it was the correct decision to play him is because I feel Mark Wood would have gone for a similar amount of runs in that many overs. You saw even on a surface like Rajkot, where there was a hardness to the surface, it would have suited his bowling, but with the way he was looking to maybe one-dimensional more often than not, he would have gone for runs, and he went at about 4 over in both things, even though he picked up 4 wickets in the first innings. So I thought if Ollie Robinson has a bad day and goes 4 over, Mark Wood's going to do that on a general day, which is why I think it was great decision to play, and plus he scored runs with the bat. And I feel you've got to separate the spell between how he bowled to right-handers and to left-handers. I thought he bowled to Jaiswal early on. Shubman Gill played some nice shots off him, and that's why his equating rate is above 4 over. So I feel he's been scapegoated. They may leave him out for the final test match and play Mark Wood, and he'll probably go at 4 over as a stock economy rate, where Ollie Robinson, he's a controlling seamer. We've seen him go well before, where he should have played the first 2 tests of the series, and then they may realize that Ollie Robinson on a good day would kind of go at a similar rate to what Anderson has been going at. So we'll have to see what they'll do there. On the third innings, Ashwin finally going over the wicket rather than around, and you saw the wickets he picked up in Ben Duckett and Ollie Pope. As I said, in India's first bowling innings and even before, he's been looking to play on the batsman's tendency to sweep while going around the wicket, and the defensive tactics haven't helped him either. He hasn't been hitting his lengths with precision, and therefore he's been going for runs. So I thought when he switched to over the wicket, I expected him to do well, and I wanted him to take the new ball, which he did. Even then, in his first 12 overs, he went at 4 over, and he picked up Joe Root as his third wicket, where after being the backbone of the English batting innings in the first innings, he tried to play this ball to the leg side. It was a straighter delivery, and a disappointing dismissal where he was out OBW. And England would be very disappointed with the Saints, of course, since they were bowled out for 145. And once again, the tendency of going on either on the back foot to the full ball, or you're looking at the way Ben Stokes was dismissed, where he was shaking his head as he walked off. There was a notion to say, okay, the ball may have shot through again, but he was playing him from the crease. Because he was playing him from the crease, it seemed as if the ball was keeping low or it behaved irregularly when it didn't. And that's why in both things, I don't think he should have anything to complain about with the way he was dismissed. And I feel generally the dismissals across this test match have not been great. It's a case where, especially when the spinners are bowling, you could say at times the surface has kept low, but that hasn't dismissed the batsmen. The batsmen have dismissed themselves because when the ball has behaved more typically, they have taken the wrong decision in terms of their footwork, and then they're shaking their head while walking off it. It doesn't make too much sense. And that's nothing much to speak about from England, where even Zach Crowley, he was going so well, he goes on the back foot to Kuldeep Yadav, and he was dismissed there, where the major contributor for them in that innings, once he was dismissed, and there wasn't too much else to speak of around that. On the Indian bowling figure, it's a fifer for Ravichandran Ashwin, his 35th fifer. And I think in the previous innings where he picked up one wicket, that marked 100 wickets and 1,000 runs against England in Test cricket, which is a great feat. And I thought while he wasn't completely at his best in this innings, I thought at times he didn't hit his lengths, and I think he'll acknowledge that himself. I think with the wickets that he got, and with the fact that especially at the start where he was bowling over the wickets, and that's how he got the 2 wickets, we saw a better version of Ashwin than we had seen before. The defensive tactics haven't helped him, but it's good to see him pull through in this innings. I do not criticize Ashwin usually, but I thought, and he may admit this himself at some point, where he hasn't been at his best during the series, so it's great to see him get this 5-wicket haul. And Kuldeep Yadav, brilliant, 4 for 22 and 15, underbowled in the first innings, and I'm very happy to see him do this well. Jadeja, 1 for 56 in 20, and Siraj only bowling 3 overs. So India, after where they were on the previous day, had completely turned this game around due to a brilliant innings by a player who was playing his second test match, and the bowlers bringing their side back into even further back into the game from that point on. 192 runs to defend, you're up against it, and a baffling bit of captaincy where, at the very worst, if you wanted to bowl Tom Hartley, he's been bowling decently across this tour, but if you're bowling Joe Root ahead of Shoaib Bashir, who picked up a fifer in the previous innings, and James Anderson has picked up over 1,000 first-class wickets in his career, and would have given that controlling performance where he would have gone under 3 and over and picked up a couple of wickets, I don't know what to say. This led India off the hook. They went at 40 without loss. They went into stumps on day 3, 40 without loss after 8 overs, and from that point in time, even then, I didn't think they would lose the game chasing 192 runs, but especially from that point in time, I thought the outcome was sealed. 84 runs were put on for the first wicket, and a bit of fanaticism occurred, where they went from that point to 120 for 5. India should have never have let things go from that point to where it did. And a composed knock from Shubman Gill, only scored 2 sixes at the very end. At times he's been curbing his natural instincts and been preparing to start off slowly. And I thought this is a very nice innings from him. And Dhruv Jurel playing a good knock under, well, I wouldn't say under pressure, because I still thought things were manageable for India to win, but both those two played things nicely and got them over the line. So a series win for India, their 17th Test Series victory at home, and this is in a row. They've not been their omnipotent selves this series, and that's because I feel the tactics have been defensive. At times the bowlers haven't hit their lengths, the selections haven't been great. Having said that, a 3-1 lead, an unassailable lead, and they'll be looking to win that 5th Test match in Dharamshala. Bumrah may be back apparently, but I don't get that at all. When if you can't win a Test match without Bumrah, especially when it's a dead rubber, I don't know what to say. Even that is defensive thinking in my view. I think David Padikkal may play ahead of Rajat Patidar. Unfortunately, he's been given opportunities, but has been getting out in dismissals that haven't been too great. So I think Padikkal will play ahead of him. I feel England have given a good account of themselves in this tour. No one expected them to win a game, and they've won that first Test match in the way they did, and they've competed at times throughout this series. times it may be because the Indian side also weren't clued on, but I also think England have been at positions where they could have taken advantage of those points in time. They dominated the first 2 days in this test match. Unfortunately, their second innings was what let India back into the game. Even though the partnership between Jurel and Kuldeep Yadav narrowed the lead down, if England had got a decent score in that second innings, things could have been different, especially with the hiccup in the middle phase during India's chase. But I still feel that even though the India have now won the series, I feel England have given a good account of themselves, and whatever happens in that fifth test, they can go back home thinking that they've done a decent job. So that's on that. And there's a bit of a break until the start of the fifth test match. I'll be putting out a preview closer to that date. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe. Please share the video with friends around, but this is my opinion. What's yours?